The Shakespeare was never meant to be read sitting in a classroom at a desk. It was always meant to be performed. And I remember that when I was a teenager and I had my first encounter with Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth, it was agonizing because we sat there and read it. And it wasn't until I came to Powhatan and we actually had the opportunity to work with children. And we're not just reading it, they're learning it and they're performing it. So, when I was a grad student at Shepherd University, I took several courses on teaching Shakespeare, but the most influential parts was when I would go to the teacher seminars at the American Shakespeare Center down in Stanton, Virginia. And the big point there is that it is to be performed, and it's not just to be, you're not supposed to sit there and just read it. And so we learned a lot of different techniques. And when I came here to Powhatan, this was already such a part of the school culture. And the other part of the school culture is that they do a lot of the project-based learning, and performing Shakespeare as an eighth grader is a accumulation of all of those things. The children, not only are they reading their lines and memorizing their lines, but they're creating a video so their lower school classmates can understand it, and they are staging it, and they're figuring out their costumes, and they're doing their blocking, and they're creating the sets and the costumes and the props. And so this is like, I'm less of a director and more of a facilitator. I'm here to support the students in their learning process, and we learn together. They'll have terms come up that they're not familiar with in the play, and somebody pulls out a device and we're looking it up on what does it mean, well, how do you pronounce it, and things like that. And so it is just such a wonderful experience for the kids, and you watch them, and like I've been watching them I've been watching them for a couple months now, but we had kids that walked into school at the beginning of the school year and they were already off book. They had already memorized their lines, and from that point they started to be able to perform it, and they started to figure out who their character was. They even made fake book profiles for each of their characters so they could really understand who it was they were portraying. And so we had kids walking in off book, and they start performing it, and then they start to understand what's going on with it, and they have a leg up. They go off to high school next year and they're introduced to Romeo and Juliet. Well, they've already got experience with Shakespeare, and they don't have that handicap of sitting at a desk and being told you're going to read this, because they understand so much better how it was supposed to be performed and how Shakespeare's work is supposed to be experienced. So one of the benefits is that that these children, they have taken this text that most college students struggle to understand, and not only have they digested it and they've come to understand it, but they've also been able to synthesize it, perform it, and share it with children their own age and younger, so that they are also able to understand it. And so those are communication skills that go well beyond what they're doing here on stage. It is something that's going to have a positive impact on their lives, through forever.